Printing is an easier task in 2010 in the previous versions, and of all of the features that Microsoft changed in this version, this one really went through some of the biggest changes, and I think it's really for the better. Now, to get to printing, fairly easy. You could go to the File tab here and then go down to Print. I'm just going to escape out of here because you could also press Control-P, and that's something that hasn't changed in years and years. So notice more than half of the screen is taken up by Print Preview. Now, I think that is really great because in the 2007 version, nobody really knew where the Print Preview screen was. And in the older versions, the Print Preview screen wasn't really very useful. It was there, but couldn't really do very much. So here what they're doing is they're putting this Print Preview right in the same screen as printing. So let's go through some of the options that are here. This is your default printer. If you have other printers configured and you want to choose them, you can simply choose any other printer that you have, or if you have Adobe Acrobat and whatnot. If you want to get to printer-specific properties, then you can click here on this Printer Properties link, and this brings you into the properties that are specific to your printer. So if you have an HP LaserJet 4200, you're going to see this particular screen. If you have another printer, a Canon or a Lexmark, you're going to see other screens. So this is kind of handy to have. You might also decide, okay, what part of this workbook do you want to print? And if you click this drop down, you can choose, well, just the one sheet if you have active, if you have multiple sheets that are active, or you could print the entire workbook or the selection. None of that has really changed, but the way they present it to you has changed a lot. And if you're going to print multiple copies, you can collate it or not collate it. Now here's something else before we look at this orientation. Let's go over here to page layout. And this is something also they changed this version. I think it's, well, long overdue, but it's a great feature here. Under orientation, you see this is landscape. Now, let's go back. I'll just press Control-P and come back in here. Now, this is landscape orientation. Well, what used to happen in old versions is you might have landscape set up in the document, portrait set up here in the print dialog box, and then when you print, you might get half the stuff cut off, or you're not seeing things on the page the way you expect them to be. When I change this to portrait here, and I go back to page layout here and go to orientation, check it out. It changes to portrait. So this is a really great feature, and of course we could do this in reverse. If I go here and choose landscape, I'll just press Control-P again, here it's back to landscape. So it changes to what you want instead of having the two parts of the program fighting with each other, which is great. And here, what paper size do you want? Kind of self-explanatory. Do you want letter size, legal size, and so on? I'll leave it with that. And with margins, also, this has different options for margins, and I'm just going to leave the default there. Now, scaling, they had this also in previous versions, but they made this a little easier as well. Scaling, do you want it to fit to a page? Do you want to fit to one page wide or one page tall, and so on? And again, this is a small worksheet, so I'm going to leave no scaling here. Now, maybe you're feeling a little nostalgic and you like the old method of spelunking through all of these multiple levels of dialog boxes to print. Well, you can still do that. Go down here to Page Setup, and here is the old-fashioned Page Setup dialog box. And there's everything that we had here, but just in this less intuitive interface, portrait and landscape. Here's your scaling, margins, we had all that on there. Headers and footers, oh God, you don't have to do this anymore, do you? But you can still do it if you want, and go to the Sheet tab and print titles, and all these you could do easier ways in Excel. So I'm just going to cancel out. And that's really all there is to it. Once you're here and you decide how many copies you want, choose how many copies you want, and then click Print, and your worksheet has then printed out.